ProBrick exclusive YouTube channel with Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. I don't practice as a theologist anymore, but I do share information that I've accumulated over years and years of personal and theoretical training and experience. In a conflict, where does it begin? How does it maintain itself? How does it continue? How does it carry on and grow? I'll tell you how. Unresolved. Where there's unresolved, inevitably there is going to be inner conflict, torment, spite, ego, some cases severe mental disturbances, imaginations, conceitedness. All these traits are and can be born out of unresolved inner conflict. Now, inner conflict within somebody can be covert, can be well hidden, can remain covert. For many people are functioning with all sorts of incredible, horrible inner conflicts. And they try and soothe these conflicts by sex. Problem with sex has got a way of making things manifest in a very exposing way. Sex is not usually a good antidote to problems, not usually. It does have a soothing nature to it, but at the same token, it can be very conflictive in the mind of somebody after the experience, because it does have a way of stirring up the emotions, bringing out of the sub-caverns of the soul inner conflicts, insecurities, feelings of abandonment, feelings of no value instead of more value. This is what just sex can do. It can disrupt the peace in a person's mind and heart. But it can also, on the other hand, done right and used right, soothe the mind and the heart as well, inside the elements of healthy use of it. Then you have the substances, alcohol, weed, medications, and all sorts of other drugs. And that's why there's police. You realise that, don't you? The police are there to stop these people from causing harm to themselves and others. For those of you that are behind closed doors that are struggling with people that are causing you incredible grief and pain and loss and illness and sorrow, ring the police. Just ring the police. I've rang the police. I've rang the police on neighbours. I've rang the police on family members. Ring the police. That's what they're there for. You're paying your taxes for their services. You realise that. The police work for you. My daughter's a policewoman, and I'm very proud of that. In a sensible way. I don't stroke her ego or anything, but she's done a good job for herself. But that's what the police are there for. Many people today are hiding in family environments, and they know things aren't right, things aren't good. There can be sexual misconduct. Most of them have got alcoholics living in them, drug addicts. None of them function psychologically well. And sometimes these drugs and things lead to other problems. They lead to the incest, the emotional incest and all this other stuff that goes on. I've been with women, 50-year-old women, whose 20-year-old sons have jumped into bed with us. Didn't know who, wouldn't have had a clue who I was. You explain that. What is that? What inner conflicts are going on for somebody to make their way into bed with their mother and her new boyfriend? Let's talk about it. Come on. Let's not sweep this shit under the carpet anymore. Let's fix it. Let's try and solve it. Let's try and find some solutions. Or do we just leave it for people to go down the drain? The last time I saw that woman and that boy, he was at the psychologist's. Now, is that any surprise to you? No, of course not. But I'll give him one thing, at least he went. A lot of these parent-enabled mummy boys won't even seek help. They just hide in the guise of a false narrative about who they are and where they're at in their lives. Don't show them themselves. My goodness, don't be so kind to show these people what's really going on. No, you might upset them. Well, you know, really, if a boat's sinking and there's no panic, guess what? If there's boats sinking and people aren't desperately trying to stop that boat from sinking and there's no lifeboats, guess what? You're all just going to sit and drink tea and sink to the bottom and drown. My grandfather was in the Royal Australian Navy, served on the HMAS Sydney and Canberra, and he told me they got torpedoed, they got hit in the side, and he was down in he was a boiler attendant. So they've tried, the hole in the side of this destroyer battleship was the size of 2 double-decker buses, he said, where this torpedo hit the side of the ship. There were body parts everywhere, there was people burnt, and they, in the middle of all this chaos and the boat threatening to sink and be sunk, they're under attack obviously, in the midst of all this chaos, they had to get the water out of that battleship or it was going to sink. Why are we not, with the same passion and vision and determination, being open with people about where they're really at? Why are we just meandering and catering to the demise, mental, inner conflictive demise of these people that truly need help, but they're not being told where they're at. They're not being told to look in the mirror. They're not being shown how far away from where they should be they really are. You explain that to me. Isn't that demonic? Wouldn't you say that sounds very fishy to me? One thing about the Bible, if you really do come to a place where you want to find out what your human nature's like, and you will if you read the Bible, you soon will. It's one of the only books that will put that in your face far enough for you to stop and go, uh-oh, have an uh-oh moment. It'll show you what the problem is. It's internal. And it's not stopping. It's not going away. So how do you fix it? Yeah. Professionally prescribed amounts of medication can fix it. 100%. No problem with that. But these people that are taking upon themselves to self-medicate, using recreational drugs to do that, only to bring more harm upon themselves. Remember, that's what the police are for. To stop drugs. To get people that are drink driving and drug driving and all this other stuff that brings harm, not only to themselves but to others. Let's just be honest. These people are not finding the answers. My second wife had friends, and one of these people was an alcoholic, but you would never have picked it. And he was a weak grub. And they couldn't tell night from day, these people. Really, they couldn't. They had no accountability or responsibility for themselves whatsoever. They didn't care who did what, how it ended up, who it harmed, who it maimed. They just went along for the next laugh, for the next drink, for the next toke, whatever the next thing was going to be. That's what they did. And I remember when things went down in my marriage and these people knew about it, they never rang me or told me. They couldn't have cared less. So you can sit at the table and watch these people drink their grog and alcohol and shit. You don't for 1 minute think you can trust them. Because I never drank. I just sat there and watched the folly, the stupidity, the ego, the pride. And to be quite frank, I couldn't wait to get home. But that's what these people do. How do you get around all this? How do you, unless you're a clinical case and you've got a serious mental illness. I'm not talking about these people. I'm talking about people that haven't got these things that they go on about and they're fueling themselves up on drugs. How do you really help them? Well, for most of them it takes a severe crisis, personal crisis, where they're forced to look at themselves and to study themselves and to work out what's really going on. And this is where a lot of these people fall out with their parents, because the parents should have been honest and told them. No, not these days. Denial. There's a lot of denial. Not only, well, see, if the parent's in denial, what do you think the child's going to be? In denial. There's no choice. Like begets like. It comes from the top down. And today the trouble's starting in the families. The men aren't being men. Men don't know how to masculate. Excuse me. Men don't know how to be masculine in its true form anymore. I experienced, okay, say you're in a relationship and you've asked this person not to drink or drink less, or you don't live with this person, you say to them, please, when you come over, don't come over drunk. Can anybody relate to that? Well, what if it's dope? Yeah, I know you like smoking dope, and I know it's part of your medication, but please don't come over off your face. And they do. And they're sitting there thinking that you can't notice, that you don't see it. They're unaware, right, cognitively dissident due to the passion that they have for the substance, completely and cognitively blanked out like a religious person that's just following lies, like the people that drank that Kool-Aid in Jonestown. They're just sitting there thinking that you're going to drink the Kool-Aid. They're sitting there, drunk or stoned, whatever it is, functioning, mind you, just hanging on to functioning, as though if you can't tell. Not resolving anything, just turning up drunk. Now, I've had workers that used to turn up drunk, and I'd fire them and send them home. I'd get off the job. How do these people think that they're going to have be reliable in a relationship and have a reliable relationship if they're not reliable themselves, with themselves? Everything comes back to the way in which a person looks after themselves, I'm telling you. And this will pass on to the children. Introspection at the deepest level, may I say. Accepting what your faults really are, hopefully without anybody having to tell you or life having to teach you, is the way to go. This is Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. You can pray, you can ask God to help you, but at the end of the day, I've seen this so many times. People used to come to church after they'd been maimed, harmed, hurt, broken, deceived, robbed. I've seen so many drug addicts go to church to try and get help. And broken people, and some make it, some don't. Some find their way out, others don't. It's just how it is. You are facing and will have to face ultimately yourself. They say ultimately you're going to have to face God. Yeah, you will. But to face Him the right way, you have to face yourself the right way. You have to come to yourself, to your own senses, like the prodigal son who went back to his father. Don't be afraid of yourself. Find yourself and allow yourself to heal. This is Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now.